Hi, and welcome to a very short introduction. From ancient Greece to branding, globalisation to Homer, and logic to fashion, we'll showcase a concise and dynamic insight into a range of diverse topics for wherever your curiosity may lead you. So here is today's very short introduction.
Hello, my name is Robert Jones and I'm Professor of Brand Leadership at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, which is a couple of hours northeast from London. Brand leadership, an unusual job title, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. At the university, I teach a master's course, a postgrad course called Brand Leadership, and I also run a free online course on the FutureLearn platform called The Secret Power of Brands, and we're just getting close to 100,000 people now signing up for that course over the last few years. But that's only 2 days a week at university. The rest of my time, I'm a brand strategist. I advise companies, big and small, on their brand strategy. Mostly in the last 30 years nearly, I've been doing that at a global brand agency called Wolff Olins. More recently, I'm also working independently for clients of my own, although I'm still doing projects, very much doing projects at Wolff Olins too. So I have a complicated portfolio, and over the years I've worked with big clients like Barclays, the bank, Tesco, the supermarket, Virgin, and also with a lot of not-for-profit and cultural organisations like National Trust, which is a big conservation charity in Britain, Tate, a famous Tate Modern, and other organisations in the cultural world. And most recently, and in some ways very interestingly, Wikipedia, which has been rethinking its brand recently. And I wrote a book actually a while ago now called The Big Idea, because what really interests me about brands and branding is that there is an idea at the centre. Every great organisation or product or service has got not just a logo, but an idea. It stands for something. And as someone who studied philosophy at university, I'm really interested in ideas, and the idea that ideas are powerful in the world of organisations and products and services is kind of what keeps me going. So I wrote that book called The Big Idea, based on interviews with chief executives of lots of organisations who I admire and who I think have got big ideas behind their brand. And then, I suppose 4 years ago, I thought about writing another book, filling, I think, a bit of a gap in the market for a general introduction to brands and branding, aimed at really anybody who's fascinated by, why is it that I'm prepared to pay an extra 20 or 30 pounds or dollars or euros for a pair of Nikes compared with less famously branded trainers? Why do I pay a great deal more for a painkiller called Nurofen than I do for the unbranded ibuprofen, which is chemically identical? So I wrote a book for this fantastic series, A Very Short Introduction, called Branding, A Very Short Introduction. And I guess the special point of view that I try to take in that book is that branding is often seen as a subset of marketing. It's a kind of trick or technique designed to get people to buy things. And although there's some truth in that, I actually think that marketing is a subset of branding. And branding is about everything that an organisation stands for. And branding, therefore, yes, influences marketing. It influences messages going out to the marketplace, but it also influences employees inside the organisation. It's just as important internally, and it's just as important for investors and shareholders and for society as a whole. So not only does it influence communication, advertising and so on, it also has to influence the product itself, product design, product innovation, customer service, call centres, all of those things. It's the whole of an organisation. So that's why I think marketing is a subset of branding, and branding is, at its best, it's very central to the whole of what an organisation does. So that's the point of view I try to take in my book. And I'm also interested in how branding has not just a commercial role to play in the world, but a social and cultural role. Branding is not just a very powerful commercial phenomenon, it's a very powerful cultural phenomenon too. It plays a big part in our culture. And brands change things. Brands change how we think and feel and act. If you think about Tesla, the brand, Tesla is a relatively small car company, but Tesla, the brand, has changed the whole car industry. And we're all now interested in electric cars. And it's really the power of that Tesla brand that has changed minds on such a big scale. So what is branding? It's about taking a product, might be quite a mundane and ordinary product or service or company, and adding meaning to it to add value to it, really. So Coca-Cola is really just some coloured sugary water, you might say, flavoured water. But there's a whole set of meanings to do with youthfulness and its American heritage and happiness that are all part of the Coca-Cola brand. Ikea, or Ikea, you could say is just a big retailer of flat pack furniture. But around all of that, it's created a whole bunch of meanings to do with the importance of design, to do with a Scandinavian ethos, which creates a brand, which creates additional meaning, which brings customers in, which guides employees in how they make day-to-day decisions. And even a much newer online brand like TikTok is at one level just another social media platform, but the ideas around it make it into a huge cultural phenomenon. So 3 things I think to know about brands and branding. One is that it's a really natural human activity, and it goes right back to ancient Egypt, if not before, when people first started branding their cattle, making a mark on their cattle to say, this is not just a cow, this is my cow, adding meaning. So it's a natural human activity. It has spread enormously over the centuries since then, and particularly exploded in the last 40 years with the rise of globalization. And now there are very few fields of life where brands and branding doesn't exist, including charities and universities and museums and even movements like Black Lives Matter or Extinction Rebellion. And the third important thing just to know about branding is that it's not just about ideas, it is also about design. It's about form, it's about what things look like. Yes, it is actually about logos. The logo is the signal of the idea that is the brand. And I guess that's how I got into branding in the first place all those years ago, through an interest in design. And I joined a design company called Wolff Olins, discovered that actually it's not just about design, that branding is about the idea as well. And as a philosophy graduate, that really got me hooked. And that led me to write the Big Idea book, then got me into teaching at the university, and then more recently to writing Branding, a very short introduction. So that's a very short introduction to branding, a very short introduction.